I'd like to call this site plan subcommittee meeting to order. Let's see here. Tonight we are reviewing the site plan for the PZ 1-22, the Kurtz Nursery. Can I get a roll call of commission members, please?
Commissioner Helfrey, Commissioner Ward, Commissioner Cohn,
Here.
Commissioner Broyles, Commissioner Clayton, Commissioner Depler, Commissioner Jackson, Chair Beatty,
Here.
Councilmember Brost, Mayor Boland.
Thank you. I assume 4 is enough, correct?
That is actually what our bylaws say for the site plan subcommittee. We usually have a larger crowd, but we sure appreciate you for tonight. Let me tell you.
I think the 5 o'clock time might have something to do with that.
I understand, but we struggle with that 6 o'clock start, just trying to fit everything in an abbreviated time frame. So I am
work early.
am sincere. Travis and I really appreciate your accommodation.
All right. So, Mr. Vunich, if you have any comments?
Well, first, I'm going to ask Mr. Newberry to read the item into the record and
Okay.
then jump into what I hope to be is a sharp presentation for the benefit of the site plan subcommittee and then those in attendance via Zoom.
Review and discussion of the site development plan and related items regarding PZ 1-22 Kurtz Nursery, 2312 Steamboat Hollow Lane, Wildwood, Missouri 63038. M3 Planned Industrial District Ordinance number 2751, 15.44 acres in size, which is located on the west side of North Etherton Road, north of its intersection with Centaur Road. Street address 495 North Etherton Road, St. Louis County, locator number 18X640024. Approved uses: a mulch storage and processing facility, composting of a range of landscape materials, agricultural and horticultural operations, landscape and maintenance operations, along with forestry and timber processing and accessory sales of products. Ward 1.
Thank you, Mr. Newberry. Mr. Vunich?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and members of the site plan subcommittee, first, and to repeat myself, thank you all for being here tonight. We do appreciate it. I would note that there are a couple of individuals on Zoom relating to this particular project. There is Mr. Kurtz, the owner of the property and now developer of it as well. There is his legal representation, Mr. Griesedick. And then also on Zoom tonight is Tim Meyer, the engineer of record with Bowles Engineering. So certainly if there are questions that Mr. Newberry, Ms. Ripito, or I, along with Mr. Brown, cannot answer, you have three very qualified people on Zoom to assist. First, a little explanation. As you know, during the pandemic, we kind of moved away from our traditional process of site plan subcommittee, then full commission for final action on plan submittals. It was part practicality and just the timing associated with our meetings during the pandemic. But this is the process we typically follow, where site plan subcommittee kind of gets a chance to kind of dig a little deeper, then move on from there. And if there are questions at the full commission, then you 5, I should say, with Ms. Steffler, can kind of help along and assist in that discussion. So thanks for kind of bringing back what we used to do, and hopefully we'll find it beneficial. As part of the packet of information that was prepared for the site plan subcommittee, Mr. Newberry, Ms. Ripito, and I have provided you the agenda, obviously, for tonight's meeting. We also provided you the governing ordinance that was approved by City Council in the middle part of November of last year, 2022. That governing ordinance contains a lot of the recipes, so to speak, for which Mr. Kurtz and Bowles Engineering had to follow. Along with that, Bowles Engineering has responded to comment letters from the 2 departments. And along with that, they've also provided a number of correspondences between several service agencies and the utility network that will serve the site. And then finally, you have what Mr. Newberry, Ms. Ripito, and I believe is the final version of the site development plan, reflective of the governing ordinance and other items identified herein. Just to kind of give you a bit of review, This particular property is just over 15 acres in size and located in the Wildwood portion of the Chesterfield Valley. And Mr. Newberry will draw up an aerial photograph for me. The subject site is identified with the kind of turquoise or green color. It is in the vicinity of industrial activity. As you know, Flick Supply Service has been in that vicinity for a number of years, since the mid-1990s, in fact. And then, as you can see on the left-hand slide, or excuse me, right-hand side of the slide, the Spirit of St. Louis Airport, which is owned and operated by St. Louis County. So consistency in terms of use was never an issue, and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended the amended M3 Planned Industrial District, and ultimately the City Council concurred with that recommendation. So we have a 15.4 acre tract of land. Mr. Kurtz intends to use it for his, for lack of a better term, landscape business. There are many components of that landscape business. Mr. Kurtz intends to develop approximately 2,200 square foot office building, new build, and the Architectural Review Board, which Mr. Cohn is our representative from the commission, has already reviewed and acted upon favorably. Along with the office building, which has a very much a residential character, there is a plan for a 5,000 square foot shop storage building. And then there are storage bins that are planned along the north boundary of the property. And then in what I would consider the southwest corner of the property, there is going to be equipment and other storage that is planned. The city's zoning ordinance requires that there be 9 parking spaces. That minimum is met under this plan. And as you can see from some of the sheets and the information contained on them, there is a gate that's planned at the entry area to provide security on off hours. The project is very similar to Fixed Supply in many regards. It's open storage with a limited amount of covered storage, and it is intended to basically accept different types of waste streams from gardening, tree removal, etc., process them, and ultimately have available for sale to the general public. So there is a retail component to this particular proposal. I think key amongst the items that have been provided by Vols Engineering are 4 of the letters that I want to identify. The first is North Etherton Road is a St. Louis County arterial roadway. And so again, in this particular instance, the city has very little input on road improvements or what or where that entrance or access point might be. And Vols Engineering has contacted St. Louis County, and there is a letter in your packet endorsing the design in this particular location. Second among those is MSD, the Metropolitan St. Louis Sewer District. They have a list of comments that all will be addressed. But again, this site will be served by public sanitary sewer. And in this particular instance, MSD defers to the city of Chesterfield for the Chesterfield Valley Stormwater Master Plan. And that is the other entity I like to mention before I close on those is the city of Chesterfield. Through a cooperative agreement, the city of Wildwood does allow the city of Chesterfield to review plans in the valley for consistency and compatibility and, for the most part, compliance to the stormwater master plan that's been developed over the years. That stormwater master plan has a couple of key features that are hard to miss when you look at the overall site development plan. And that's the 2 large deep depressions or basins along the edge of roadway, and for the most part, separate the site from that roadway. But again, with the drainage being what it is in the Chesterfield Valley, these types of improvements are not atypical, but typical. I think it's important to note the depth of those 2 has been calculated so as until there is access to a regional facility, regional retention facility in the valley, in the city of Chesterfield, quite frankly, the depth of these is to accommodate a major storm event. So if you're concerned about them being too shallow or not deep enough, I think the numbers were like 40,000 CFS, and this can accommodate up to 200,000 CFS or something along those lines. So the work has been done to ensure safety along the roadway and the proper management of runoff. And then finally, as you know, this is in the levee protected area, so the levee district has reviewed the plans as well, and there is correspondence as part of that. Finally, the department would just like to note a couple of key factors or key facts about this particular project. First and foremost, as I've mentioned, the Architectural Review Board has already acted upon the submittal of the information from the petitioner, and that action was favorable. The stormwater management plan is probably the most complicated in some regards that we've seen in a while, but certainly there are a number of review authorities besides the city that have taken a look at it and added comment. And then finally, there is an intent to elevate the site with fill, so as when the gravel is set, there will be an increase in the elevation of the site. Not substantial, but I do want to mention it. And it's drawn a conclusion, it's drawn out in one of the agency response letters. So there will be some manipulation of the site to get the adequate base for the gravel, the storage area, and the improvements. All in all, the review done by the Department of Public Works and the Department of Planning had identified a list of comments. Those comments are identified in the Vols letter. There were 9 in total. All of those have been addressed by the petitioner and the petitioner's engineer and attorney. And tonight we're presenting to you what we believe is a set of plans that could leave this meeting with a favorable recommendation from the Site Plan Subcommittee. And with that, I'll conclude. And if there's any questions of Public Works or Planning, we'll do our best to answer them now. And again, we have a group representing the petitioner as well that may have other comments to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vinich. Are there any comments from Councilman Roast?
Joe, you mentioned the plan here says septic field, but is it going to be a septic field or is?
I misstated that. There is a plan for septic. I would probably defer to Tim Meyer with Bowles to kind of give more detail on that. Thank you for catching that. That was a misstatement on my part.
Because that's.
And if, with the chair's permission, if Mr. Meyer would like to respond, that'd be appreciated.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Mr.
Yeah,
Meyer.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, we have reached out to MSD and they are fine with us doing a septic on this site at this time because there's no sewer within a reasonable distance that would allow us to hook up. In the future, if there's ever a sewer brought down Etherton Road, there would be maybe the opportunity to connect, but at this time, septic is what we're proposing.
Thank you again.
The other, Commissioner Humphrey.
Thank you. So thank you, Mr. Winich, for your presentation. I just had a couple of questions. When I was reviewing all this, I just had, some of the questions I had were with the septic system, the septic field, is that line, does that show that the septic goes to both buildings or both buildings go to the same septic field? Yes. Am I reading that right?
Again, if Mr. Meyer would like to comment, I'll take a quick look at it.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. That's
Yeah.
why Mr. Meyer's here.
Yes, that is the intent. The shop out back is just going to have one bathroom and a sink, so it's minimal usage, as well as the office. Really, this is not a high use sanitary sewage proposal by any means. So it's like a house or less because they're not going to be doing laundry there and taking tubs and showers and stuff. It's going to be
Right.
pretty low usage.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Vinich, what is around the property? Is there a wall around it or am I missing something?
No, if Mr. Newberry would go back to the aerial photograph, I think we can utilize that to.
Okay, because I see at the back of the property, it says there is a filter strip with native seedlings and I'm assuming that that's for drainage.
Yes, that's all part of the water quality component.
Mhm.
We've got amended soils out by the entry exit area. Then we've got that little buffer strip
Mhm.
along the back edge. As you can see, immediately to the north is Fixed Supply Service. And
Mhm.
his business actually wraps around behind this particular subject tract of land.
Mhm.
And then to the south, you have uh, that grove of trees that's part of the Deloge estate. There's also some vacant property in the vicinity of it as well. And then across the street, you have, I believe, a couple of commercial industrial buildings that are part of corporate wings, industrial park or something, and then the airport. So as I mentioned in my preliminary comments, other than the Deloge estate, which still is an active agricultural use, just everything in its vicinity is developing either further to the east, retail, service, restaurant, or to the west, more industrial. And that's kind of in keeping with the end of runway, so to speak.
So there's nothing, no wall around the property or fence around the property. It's just open on all sides, but there's a security gate at the front of it.
The gate is the only improvement that was noted in the review.
Okay. Okay. I just have one more question. That's just for my own
Sure.
information. When you see these big mulch piles, sometimes you see them steaming, and I know that do they get hot enough that they could possibly catch fire? And the reason I ask is because it's close to the tree area, and I'm just wondering if there's anything to mitigate that. It was just a question. So that's it. Thank you.
Well, the decomposition does generate heat, but I asked Mr. Kurtz if he'd like to maybe explain the process. He's probably the expert on camera.
Go ahead, Mr. Kurtz.
Sure, I'm here. Yeah, so we keep an active process in our material. We don't let anything sit long enough to get hot. Elevation is an issue if you make the piles too tall, or if the piles get too large in size as a unit. So we keep them separated. Our goal is not to leave them sit there too long that they would ever get too hot to catch fire. So in and out, process them, colorize them, and then send them on their way to the customer. So yeah, we keep an active monitoring system for that. But where we're at right now, we haven't had any issues, and we just we're a smaller company than some of the others in town. So therefore our piles are smaller. So we really don't have that issue with the way we process our materials.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And so with FIC basically surrounding them, they don't go all the way to the levee either.
Now, there may be that bit of the southwest corner that gets close to the levee, but Mr. Fick has all of the levee and the easements associated primarily on that particular leg of the property that drops to the south.
Can you bring up the aerial photo one more time? It seems like the property on the photo is quite a bit wider than what I'm seeing on this map.
Well, I was not going to mention it, but
And
a while back, and I don't know who made the map, so I'm not pointing fingers, but a while back, this was originally this was a 50-acre tract of land that was owned by a single individual. And over the years, they had wanted to do like 12 lots and do an industrial park. Craig Krackemeyer was the representative that we always work with, and it was before the commission because they actually did a preliminary plat with Stock and Associates. Ultimately, I think the owner just was kind of, I need to move forward with this some way or somehow. So they put the property on the market. Mr. Fick bought 10 acres immediately to the south, and that's why there's a part of this site above that lettering that is actually part of Fick's property.
Okay, that's what I figured. I just wanted to clarify. And then
Good eye on the aerial photography. You must work for an aerial photography firm.
maybe. And then my one other question, I know you said that we don't have much control over the roadway, but as someone who would like to see some sort of improvements on Airport Road at some point, is there room for widening it with these current plans to say 4 or 5 lanes?
Well, what the department did is it basically created a condition that the commission endorsed and city council approved that basically says improve North Etherton Road to 1/2 of an 80-foot right-of-way and a 60-foot pavement area with an additional widening to provide an 8-foot wide stabilized shoulder. So there are provisions in there to accommodate future growth.
Okay. Yeah. I know, I only bring this up because I don't know if it's still going to happen or not, but we had the proposal for the industrial park directly south of there. And if something like that ever comes through, I feel like Airport Road or North Etherton is going to need to be addressed.
Over the years, we've collected right of way where we could to the benefit of St. Louis County. We did that with like Houlihan, Fence and Deck Depot, and Vic.
Mhm.
And so we've always tried to accommodate getting right of way where we can, so as if there is a need to widen the road, more importantly, if it is widened enough for pedestrian and bike facilities.
And that would be very much appreciated.
Understood?
That is one road I would be scared to ride on. I know people do it, but I'm scared to ride that on my bike.
Some days it seems pretty nerve-wracking just driving in a car.
Mhm. Are there any other questions or comments from the commission? Commissioner Cohn?
I'd like to make excuse me, I'd like to make a motion to approve the site plan.
Mis-
All right, motion by Commissioner Cohn, seconded by Councilman Gross.
Ms. Depler has a,
Oh, Commissioner Depler, sorry.
Yeah, hi. I just had a quick question. It wasn't real clear in my quick review of the documentation. Like, what are the bins going to look like? Like the sides of the bins, and is there anything there to, with heavy rain or something, preclude it from just draining out of those bins? I know there were only a few of them that had covers.
again, Ms. Depler, I mentioned there is going to be some elevation change on the side, but beyond that, if Mr. Kurtz again would like to respond. I think he has a pretty good idea of what he'd like to do there.
Okay, I'm back. Yes, so the soil, the covered bins are those for the soils. Soils are obviously the ones that are going to get wet. So we don't want those to be wet, and we don't want those obviously to wash away. So all the other bins will be decorative gravel, crushed limestone, Merrimack gravel, things like that, things that won't wash away. So on the north side of the property, the back side of the bins, with our grading, we're proposing to have I'm going to shoot off the hip here and say about a 3-to-1 slope, a manageable slope on the back side of the bins that will cover the total view of the stone blocks from the north. And so really, as you're traveling from the north to the south, looking at our northern property line, you will not see anything but just a grass slope along there. So the only view of the bins will be from inside the facility as it is.
So there'll be like 3-sided bins with concrete.
3-sided bins with modular concrete blocks. We call them the Lego blocks in the industry. So like I said, you won't see anything at all from the north side. The grade of the soil will go up to the top of the bin. So from the north end, all you'll see is just a grass slope, if you will. And from the inside of the property, you will see obviously the open end of the bins, but it won't be with the landscape that we're proposing out around the office, along the street. You won't have any view of the bins hardly at ever, anytime.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Hi.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. Thank you.
And again, just as a housekeeping item, the recommendation of the site plan subcommittee will be presented to the full commission at the July meeting. And again, thanks to the 6 of you that attended tonight. It is much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Good luck with construction.
We're
I
ready.
guess that might be a little premature.
We're ready.
but- Yeah, oh, yeah. Motion to adjourn. Okay, Commissioner Cohn, second by Commissioner Helfrey. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.
To the commissioners on the Zoom call, this is the same meeting for the regular meeting. So stay on or come back with using the same link.